Well, good afternoon and welcome back to Day of the Week. And here on Tuesdays, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of vaccinations. I mean, it's kind of interesting right now. I mean, there's been a lot going on with that nonsense. You know, all those crazy moms out there.
Measles making a comeback.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's in Houston right now.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it is.
About that.
Yeah, my mom came home. She's like, there's a big measles outbreak right now in Houston.
Perfect impersonation of your mother.
So,
Lays around.
do you
Yes.
Introduce everybody around?
Oh,
or
I
is it-
forgot I do that.
Oh, you
Yes.
do that.
Jordan, it hasn't been that long since
Okay,
you've done this.
I haven't
It's been
listened
an hour.
to it. No, I didn't introduce y'all because that was like literally nothing. That was about the letter C, and that was your thing to introduce, and you didn't even introduce me. Okay, I'm going to start over. And welcome back to Day of the Week, and here on Tuesdays, we're going to be talking about the wonderful world of vaccinations. Here on my left, I have Mr. Eric Geniak.
Hello.
I have Gabriel Walker back again,
What's up?
and I have the Zach Dodson. Shut up, Zach.
Oh, come on.
Vaccinations. Like was mentioned before, measles has become an issue in the Houston area, which could have easily been prevented by getting your kids vaccinated.
Not
Seriously.
necessarily.
Okay, why?
Well, I mean, typically you have people who are prone to the vaccination, and then you have people who are resistant to the vaccination.
Resistant.
Yeah, there's so in a letter to legislature, a Harvard immunologist, she came out and she said, unvaccinated children pose zero risk to anyone, and here's why. And then this was done as of 2017. In the letter, she talked about specifically measles. There are what are called low responders, and then there are people who are very prone to getting the shot, and it wipes it all out and stuff like that. If they get a shot and they're a low responder, it means that the vaccination didn't take, and so they just kind of go on, and that's why when you get two measles shots.
So are they a low responder to the vaccine itself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's why you get more than one measles shot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when do you get these measles shots?
I don't know when the age. I mean, they get them as early as 2, I think. Or
I
they're-
know.
It's a pretty early age.
It's
I think.
I
Yeah.
have it written down. You get it at your 6-month mark.
6 months, yes.
And then I think you get it again. That's like one of the very first. 'Cause I have a big list of all the vaccines that you get at your 6-month mark. And then they have a list of vaccines that you get when you're about 2 or 5 before you start going to school, I think.
Yeah.
Or whenever you get your booster shots.
And the problem is that revaccination cannot correct low responsiveness. It appears that in an immunogenetic trait, the proportion of low responders among children was estimated at 4.7% in the USA, in the USA alone. Studies of measles outbreaks in Canada, the US, and China, outbreaks of measles still happen even when vaccination compliance is at its highest bracket, 95, 97, even 99. This is because the high vaccine responders, the vaccine-induced antibodies, wane over time. Vaccine immunity does not equal long-life immunity acquired after stages of natural exposure.
Okay.
And this is according to, her name is Tatiana, I cannot pronounce that last name, Balkanstovich or something.
Yes.
Anyway,
Close enough.
the idea is that if you vaccinate your children or you don't vaccinate your children, the risk is on you. The unvaccinated children pose no threat
To me,
to you.
as a person.
Well, I
But-
mean, you have to remember what vaccines are is it's just either a dead or
Yeah,
a
very weak.
weaker strain of the virus, and it's given to you so that your immune system can build up its own natural defenses, so when it sees something similar, it's able to combat it.
However, the more a virus is able to infect a host, the more chance that it has to mutate. I don't know if that's true with certain strains like smallpox, or I mean, we don't have smallpox anymore, or
Smallpox
like
has been eradicated, thankfully.
measles or varicella. But like I know that's how the common cold you can get vaccinated for the flu, but obviously most people still get sick because it's so easily mutated. The more you give a virus the chance to get a host, the more
Adapt, yeah.
it's easier. It's more likely that it's going to adapt and mutate to something that we haven't been vaccinated against. So there is the increased possibility, the more you allow it to continue by allowing it to infect people, it could eventually, if it mutates enough, infect people who have been vaccinated against not that strain. Then they have to find a new strain, and they have to create the vaccine for that new strain.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the case with the flu, because when they put out the flu vaccinations every season, it's not a single vaccination for all the flu strains. Because there's so many different flu strains, the CDC basically just has to make an educated guess as to which strain is going to be out, and then distribute that vaccination. That's why I think it was either last year or the year before, vaccines went out, but the flu virus went around just as much as it would if it hadn't, because the CDC guessed wrong and the wrong one was distributed.
I don't know how many strains of the measles there are, but I mean it could mutate eventually if it's allowed to. So that's why I think that personally you should get vaccines, but then
Personally, where I stand on vaccines, I mean, I had all my children vaccinated. When I was younger, I didn't know half as much as I know now on it and stuff, and I might have reconsidered certain vaccinations. My stance is it's not a black and white issue. It's an issue that as free people, we need to be allowed to debate and figure out ourselves what's best for our family and for where we should go. And increasingly, what I see, especially what happened in California and Oregon, Proposition 442, or Bill 442, that was shot down in Oregon, of all places, was an attempt to control that situation. In other words, take the right from you to decide whether or not you want to get a vaccination or not. The World Health Organization just recently came out in 2019, and they said one of the fifth major cause to global health in 2019 are actually anti-vaxxers. People who are hesitant to get vaccinations. And they specifically, state measles, for example, has seen a 30% increase in global expansion. The reasons for the rise are complex, and not all of these causes are due to vaccine hesitancy. However, some countries that were close to eliminating the disease have seen a resurgence. The problem is, the World Health Organization knows damn well that measles cannot be eradicated. They cannot be eradicated.
Why?
Because of exactly what I said. Some people are receptive to the vaccinated, and other people aren't. And so there will always be this kind of
So there will
ebb and
always be
flow.
measles.
Yeah.
It will never be eradicated.
Exactly.
But it can rise
But
more
they-
than we would like it to.
Sure. This 30% increase is mostly due to parts of the country where the vaccination is not
Given.
Receptive.
It's not representative of the United States. Where they used this argument right here to try and pass, it was called Bill 442, basically stated you have to immunize your children under law.
So is this the
Oh,
law
here it is. Here it is.
passed that you saying you have to?
Yes, requiring families to have their children vaccinated under penalty of law. It did not pass. The senator that came up with the bill, Senator Syward Hayner, and she's a doctor, and she said people have to get vaccinated. There's no decision, they have to do it. It was an open house, and she can one of the guys, whatever his name is, the other attorney came up and said, Ms. Hayward, 2 years ago, you were taking medication for, I have it written down. She was taking medication for spinal bifida. And according to the medication, she's not allowed to breastfeed, but she insisted on breastfeeding her children. So she did research, and then she got another opinion, and she breastfed her children against her gynecologist's recommendations. And I don't want to call him a prosecuting, or I don't want to call him a defense, because it wasn't that situation. But the other attorneys pointed that out, and she said, "Oh, I took offense at that. How dare you impugn me?"
Yeah.
He goes, "I wasn't impugning you. Your right to research and accept or deny your doctor's recommendation
That's
is a
exactly.
right that should be reserved for all of us."
Exactly. That's a very fair argument.
Okay, and
you're right.
then the World Health Organization came out with this, and then they put in another bill, Bill 526. and it's going before the board actually as we speak. And basically, it's kind of going around the barn, if you will. It says, okay, so we can't get you not to take the vaccines or that kind of thing. However, we will mandate that if you have a child, before that child is 5, you will be mandated with 3 visits by the state health organization, and they will decide whether the mother is still, is fit and sane to run the house, if the children have had their or if the household is stable and safe, and if the children have had their vaccinations and stuff like that, and according to their reports, they could take away your children and take them to the state.
That's ridiculous.
Especially in Oregon, where they have the worst juvenile facilities for kids.
I really do think that it should be kept a right that people can decide whether or not their children should get vaccinated and unvaccinated, because I think that's just kind of a basic right to deny or accept any advice given to you by doctors or anything.
Like I said, going into there, if it's vaccination against the mumps or measles, I'm gonna take that. I would give my children the vaccination against the mumps and measles.
Yeah.
Okay, but there are other mandated ones that maybe I'm not so sure of, because let's say like papillomavirus.
Yes.
That's another one. Just recently, or not recently, about 2015. Anyway, the makers of the virus were sued because of complications. Because of the vaccination. Now that was back in 2015. However, in 2018, 2019, they've kind of reworked the virus. I think it's called HPV.9. It has a better return on the stuff. But I mean, as far as side effects of the vaccination, and the fact that in a lot of cases it didn't work. And so those, those side effects versus effectivity caused. Now there was this rumor going around that Japan did away with the HPV vaccine altogether. They said no, we're not going to do it. But that's actually false. It wasn't that they're not going to do it. They said the research was out there, and there were a lot of problems with it. So they said that what they were going to do is they were going to back off promoting it. But still, it was enough to get a whole country to back off.
Yeah.
And then here, it's required. It's absolutely required. And I mean, as far as like the human papillomavirus,
how many cases of it do you know? Is it more prevalent over here than it is over in Japan? Is that why it's so mandatory here than it is in Japan?
Or is it just a case of like fear that it might come over, and just because of sporadic cases throughout the country?
Knowing what you know now, would you still give your kids vaccines when they were little? Like when, say...
Oh, yeah, as far as the initial vaccines, mumps, measles.
I think there are certain viruses that you should most definitely get vaccinations
what are the
for.
ones that you shouldn't? Because, I mean, like, I haven't gotten a flu shot in years, and that's because I kind of think they're ridiculous because I'm going to get the flu anyways. But, I mean, I don't want measles, mumps, polio. I don't want, like...
Well, I think for the ones that we have, decades upon decades of research on, and, you don't see it as much anymore as you did back then, those vaccines that we know for a fact work, at least the majority of the time, those should be the ones that we are required. But for the ones that are more iffy, I think that one can be a little bit more lenient on whether you want to or not.
Okay.
Because like you said, I don't think I've ever gotten a flu shot in my entire life, and I have never gotten the flu. Knock on wood,
Well, the flu isn't as severe as something like polio or
but
smallpox.
Like polio and smallpox, those vaccinations are ones that just in my mind, I think should be mandatory because those work.
Because they're
99.9% of the time or whatever.
I don't know. It just seems like, from what you've said, which ones are the ones that, say, like Soleil was born right now? Which ones are the ones that you would mandate that she gets?
Well, right now the one that I have is I have issues with is Gardasil.
Which one's that?
That's for the HPV virus,
Okay.
and that's the ones that are going on now. Even though she's been vaccinated for it, and
I have too.
there's nothing wrong with it and stuff like that. The as far as the HPV virus goes, 2.4 deaths per 100,000 women.
Really?
That's what you're looking at statistically, and that's based on 2003, 2007. If you base it on the country's population,
Deaths
it's
from the disease?
death from HPV, catching HPV virus, which is, any kind of genital warts, that kind of thing, and stuff like that. So,
So you could still get it despite getting this vaccine.
I mean, when you think about it, though, that's
You could still,
any vaccine.
yeah, I still think
You know.
that is fair. He makes a fair point. You could still you're still at risk to get anything. Eventually, I think.
Exactly.
So I mean, is that
the idea is that you do not want to be scared away from giving your rights. Now, here's the catch in a lot of these. A lot like they don't give the polio virus vaccine anymore because polio has been eradicated. That vaccine has kind of been shelved. It used to be called POV, now it's called PIV. So it's kind of an extender to make sure that polio doesn't reoccur. Now,
when did they stop doing polio?
well, I mean, when it started, they just changed the formula.
Okay. So I remember having a polio vaccine was still mandatory for
Yeah.
Yeah.
going to school.
Yeah, it's still but it's a different format. When I got it, I mean, I still have the polio. Yeah, it's like
yeah.
that. Yeah, that big.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, yeah. The mark of the beast. But they don't have that anymore. When Bayer and merged with all these big pharmaceuticals merged together, like Merck and stuff like this. Their idea is that they had all these vaccinations, and they were creating them on a yearly basis in order to get everybody done. But they figured out if they introduced a few other chemicals, that they could prolong the usage of the vaccination with little or no effect.
Yeah.
So they thought some of those chemicals I think it's called thiacol or. Anyway, it contains mercury,
Yeah.
which has been linked.
Exactly. Nervous system developmental problems.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's a big thing that I have. I have like this whole page written about it, and like, it's in thimerosal. That's what it was.
Thimerosal, that's
It's the preservative used that contains very small amounts of mercury, and it used to, back when they still gave polio viruses, and back when it was first invented, it usually contained about 75 micrograms of this mercury.
Ethyl mercury versus methyl mercury. And so they changed it from methyl to ethyl, and then they did studies. They did studies in rats, and they found that the ethyl actually affected them worse. And then when they upped the test to monkeys, it affected them even more than
So
that.
then how would it affect us? And they upped it up to, instead of 75 micrograms, it's now 100, it's almost 190 micrograms. And the safe level for a baby is 1.6 micrograms of this thimerosal. And, we're giving a lot more than we should be giving to babies. And that's at the point where, like, they're babies. Their nervous systems aren't developed yet. And it's probably not good to give them that,
Is that thimerosal is made from ethyl mercury, which is, has a shorter half-life in the blood than it's supposedly much more hazardous sister methyl mercury. This assertion goes against all logic and common sense. In 1985, a comparative toxicology found that in rats treated with both types of mercury showed little difference in neurotoxicity, and worse, those treated with ethyl mercury actually suffered more widespread damage.
Yeah.
Same thing with methyl, or when they did the experiments on monkeys.
Yeah.
On the mercury, the amount of it that's in vaccines, like 0.125 micrograms.
It's micrograms.
Yeah, which isn't enough to cause any lasting effects trying to find numbers, but
So do you not believe that giving vaccines at an early age can cause autism and other problems?
no, autism specifically, that's a genetic condition. That's not affected by anything any chemicals you can inject
Then
into.
how come there are so many
blood.
people on the internet freaking out about it?
I had this on. I can't back up because I didn't. I wasn't able to find the article again. But I was reading it and I said, "Oh, this is great," and I was like, "Well,
Okay.
I lost it." But it was one of the scientists that was at Merck. He came out and of course he was just drowned out. He said that he came out there was a direct link between autism and the chemical that they were putting out, the drug that they were putting out, and it was based on that stuff. And he was asked to hide that information, but he didn't. He came out, and I don't know. He's probably in jail
So
right
do
now.
you personally believe that vaccines cause autism?
Are you talking about the study that started that whole?
Well, the study that started that entire thing was dismissed.
That's what I was about to say.
Because
even a lot of the scientists involved in that. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about. But the one
No,
that
no.
initially
This one
started.
was recent. This one was recent. He was. I'm not even gonna put that out because I can't back it up. But if
And I mean-
maybe if we have another one, I can come back with that.
Because I
And I
believe
mean-
one of the reasons that's often linked is that symptoms for autism begin at around the age that
you get a bunch of
vaccines are
vaccines.
given. Yes,
But everybody that I know
but
that
whether or not you're going to have autism is that's determined like while you're still in the womb and developing.
and I can understand. I'll get back to that. I can understand why they would want them to cover it up. I think it's like a $28 billion industry. The pharmaceutical and vaccine industry. It's so I can understand why they would push it so hard, and I understand why they would cover up that dude's thing to hide it so that they don't want people to stop getting vaccines. One, maybe because they're just like genuinely concerned about people and their health and the country's overall health, but also it's most likely money. I know recently they say that autism autism is rising. The rate of autism is rising.
I mean, is
especially-
it the rate of autism that's rising, or is it just either people that have come forward and have been diagnosed with autism, or with our growing definition of what is considered autism?
That's the question, because I know
That's a good point.
autism is a fad right now, and I'm serious. Like the whole transgender thing was a fad, but now autism is a fad. There are so many videos on YouTube where all these girls are like, "I'm actually autistic," and then they smile at the camera, and then they go into their sob story about how they have autism, and fine. And my dad personally believes that everybody's on the spectrum, and I tend to believe that too. I believe we're all a little bit on the spectrum. So I mean, what really is the spectrum? But like, obviously there are people that are worse off.
Yeah,
But
we're just
I think we're just over-diagnosing people. Not misdiagnosing, but just over-diagnosing people with autism. That's where the number rises.
Yeah, because I mean,
With
there are plenty of people who, technically speaking, have autism, but it's
But you
so
wouldn't
minor.
know unless
It's
they
so
told you.
minor
They
that
wouldn't even know.
you can't even tell. You know.
Yeah, well,
I think they do
who
it
can't
just to
speak.
scare people. I think they do it just to scare people not to get the vaccines. And it was proven that the rate of autism is higher amongst white children and white people. And it's because they have a higher socioeconomic status with easy access to medical care. And to healthcare.
That's likely because they're
Easier-
more likely to see a doctor and get diagnosed.
Exactly. Because we all know that Friendswood mom. That's like, my kid is acting weird. He must have autism. And then they go,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
is being pressured more and more to diagnose autism at an early age, and that push pressures on doctors. If your kid is acting weird and you can't understand why, that is the immediate jump that you go to nowadays.
they lump
that
in
or
like
ADHD, yeah.
ADHD into that.
Oh, yeah.
Asperger's.
Exactly.
And all
Yes.
these kind of things.
Now, my mom was one of those. I wasn't doing well in school one year, so she thought like it had to be something wrong with me. So she
And
went
we
to the
all
doctor and she
know-
like begged him like, no, there's something wrong.
And we
She
all
just-
know
Something wrong.
it
with
was
it. It
just-
might just not be that.
And we all know it was just you not wanting to do math.
yeah, my doctor told my mom, hey, he's just a teenager. It's natural.
It's just
and
a thing.
And she like kept pressing him, and he eventually just gave me like a placebo just to get
And
make
I'm
her
not
happy.
saying that all white moms are like
At least
that.
I'm pretty
That's
sure it
not
was a
what I'm
placebo.
saying. But it is a higher chance. It's highest amongst white children, and it's like 30% higher than in black children, and it is 70% higher than in Hispanic children. And like I said, it's because they have higher socioeconomic status generally, and they have easier access to health care. So, and I don't know, I think maybe information, it's like you go to the doctor and they're like, well, let me tell you the plethora of different things that could be wrong with your child. And then they get all freaked
not only
out.
that too, but parents, will start self-diagnosing their kids.
They'll
Go online, put,
Mayo
like,
Clinic
some
is
random
killing her.
ass symptoms into the
Yeah.
computer.
My kid's
and
got
it's like,
cancer.
Oh look, cancer.
Yeah, exactly. Mayo Clinic is killing. Yeah.
My kid had a nosebleed. He's got leukemia.
Ladies and gentlemen, please do not
Exactly.
self-diagnose your children.
It rises in people who have health care, and like
It's
it was
not in
lower.
anything serious.
And like they had the studies show that like people like in more populated areas with like easier access to health care have higher like things versus like out and like it said like in the article that I read, it was like there were lower like status lower numbers in like Ohio and like Illinois versus like New Jersey and New York, where there's
the
like
more rural
yeah.
states.
Yeah.
And I mean that could just be because it's more there's not as much people, but I mean it also could be like man just
Poor
stop.
communities where
Yeah.
they still use lead-based paints.
yeah
Yeah.
the works.
Yeah.
But so I don't really think that there is a rise in autism. I just think that people misdiagnosing it, and whether or not
Either getting better at
overdiagnosing
diagnosing it
Yeah.
or overdiagnosing it.
overdiagnosing it, that's the word. But whether or not vaccines cause that, I don't know.
I was looking for some articles on that. It was kind
Because like you said,
of hard to find.
it is proven that mercury that used to be, and I think it's still in certain vaccines. It's not in like the flu vaccine.
Yeah,
and it's
they only
not,
took it out of a
it's
bunch
only-
because of public concern.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's in like the big ones. I know it's in some of the big
But see,
ones.
here's a point on that too. It's like if they take the right away from you to say, I don't want to do that because of this and this, they would have no onus to take away the metals in the vaccine.
And I know, like back to the autism thing. Like autism is a genetic thing. They don't
Yes.
know what specifically is changed, but it is a spontaneous change that is either in the mother, like whenever they're growing in the womb. It is a spontaneous. It can either be passed down if you have the genes for it, or it can just be a spontaneous mutation.
The
Whether
age of conception also has
Yeah.
a factor in it too. If you have a child
you're older.
on,
well, that could cause a lot more problems.
Yeah.
That causes Down syndrome.
Yeah.
Mostly.
yeah, it does. But
susceptibility.
autism is also linked to that as well. Sometimes.
So, I mean, it's not just the vaccines. There are a lot of reasons why your child can be autistic. And I mean, like,
And I mean, at least with the main ones, the ones for the bigger diseases that we actually, that we've agreed that we need. Even if it does cause autism, I'd much rather have my kid autism than die from a preventable disease.
I was about to say that. So a few weeks ago, I know this is kind of irrelevant and none of these people are scientists, but I saw an Instagram post, and of course I read the 4,000 comments. I like scrolled through and then
Oh God.
it was versus the people that are like, I'd rather have autistic child than a dead child, and the people were like, no, like those people. So it's like
There is a danger in taking this to a black or white issue. It should always be discussed, and you should never turn to somebody and say, "Oh, you're an anti-vaxxer," or you're a government stooge or something like that. You should never get to that point, because everybody can learn something when it's put out on the table and when you discuss things.
but
It bothers me that
It
that
becomes
society-
it becomes a problem when both sides are unwilling to either compromise or yield.
There was
Just listen to the
the-
other one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even
But-
just listening would be fun.
But if it's like it bothered me. It's like actually this morning on the news they were talking about anti-vaxxers as the term that they're calling them and stuff like this, and they're already making fun of anybody who would oppose such a thing, even if you just have questions on it. And they showed this setting where this guy said, Okay, and any of you anti-vaxxers out there, just put a napkin on your head and we'll just pass you by or something like that in this thing, like trying to make fun of the whole situation. And that isn't, it's not going to solve the problem. If the vaccination is in fact everything that you say it is,
Then why do you
calling
have a
that
problem?
person a name and putting them over on the category
Discredits you.
and only strengthens their resolve.
And also,
And if you get the government involved, then then all bets are off. You lose your rights, and then if there is, God forbid, a vaccine that really does damage out there, and they have it coming out to everybody, and nobody has the right to challenge it, then you're in trouble.
Yep. And I do think that people like that call people out, like if Gabe here was an extreme anti-vaxxer and I called him out, or if Zach called him out, the first thing that I would think about is Zach is insecure about his own opinion. So he's trying to cover up his own insecurity by insulting Gabriel. That's what I always think when somebody so strongly and so vehemently is like, that you are stupid, your opinion isn't right. It's them masking their own insecurities. And if you're so sure of your side, and if you are so sure that your opinion is right, and you have concrete evidence as to why your opinion is right, you should have no problem explaining to those who maybe have questions instead of just shutting them down and insulting them.
Yeah, I've found in my own personal experiences with just any argument or debate in general, I'm much more willing to hear and even look into the opposing side if we were having a civilized discussion. Once you start yelling at somebody or calling them names
Your credibility
or
goes
discrediting
down.
their idea
Beliefs.
completely, all my resolve to compromise is thrown out the window. I don't even want to listen
You
to
just
it.
want to fight them.
Exactly. You want to punch them in the face.
There was another article that came out 2018, and it was a Goldman Sachs report, and it just bothered the heck out of me. A Goldman Sachs analyst came out and talks about biotech research. Is curing diseases a sustainable, profitable business model?
Well, right now it is, but
his conclusion is no. In this one statement right here, GILD is a case in point where the success of the hepatitis C, which achieved cure rates of more than 90%, the company's U.S. sales for these hepatitis C treatments peaked at $12 billion in 2015, but have been falling ever since. Goldman estimates that the U.S. sales in these treatments will be less than $4 billion this year, according to a report. The hepatitis C franchise has gradually exhausted the available pool of treatable patients, the analyst wrote. In the case of infectious diseases such as hepatitis C, curing existing patients also decreases the number of carriers who would be able to transmit the virus to new patients. Thus, the incident pool also declines. Where an incident pool remains stable, the potential for a cure poses less risk to the sustainable franchise. Meaning, the more that more people that were cured of hepatitis C and stuff like that, the less that could be transmitted.
So they want to keep
intake.
people not cured so they can keep giving out the vaccine, right? And keep
Exactly.
making money.
The report also proposed solutions. Solution 1 addresses the large markets. Hemophilia is a $9-10 billion worldwide market. Hemophilia growing at 6 So basically, attack that market instead of the hepatitis. The solution 2 was address disorders with high incidence. Spinal muscular atrophy, SMA, affects the cells, neurons, the spinal cord, impacting the ability to work, walk, eat, and breathe. So address the other orders and then constant innovation and portfolio expansion. There are hundreds of other inherited retinal diseases, genetics, forms of blindness. Place of innovation will also play a role for the future programs. Declining revenue and trajectory for prior assets and stuff like that. So he set out provisions and what to do to make up for the loss of money they would get for curing hepatitis.
That's smart if you are going to run it like a business.
And
I mean, when you think about it, pharmaceuticals, whether they're helping you or harming you, it's a business.
this one guy who worked for Eli Lilly had a really interesting comment. He goes, "I was trained by Eli Lilly to do clinical trials. They said straight up that they were not interested in cures. There was no profit in it. Everybody in the place laughed, but he did not." He goes, "I'm no longer amused."
I completely agree. I remember reading something where the person, it was like a reporter or something. They were going into the fact that they believe that there is a cure for cancer.
It would not surprise me.
It would not surprise
really
me
would
either
not
that there was a
surprise
cure
me.
for cancer and they were just not letting it out.
And on that topic, that's good. So, have you guys heard of any cures lately?
No. And I know there are some. We have some brilliant people in the medical field, and
we have too
that
many
they have done something.
extremely brilliant people in the medical field,
Exactly.
and I know, it would not surprise me if somebody out there has discovered it and they've just been
And the
told to
chemo
shush.
treatments are so expensive, and they are making bank off. How are they paying for these hospitals?
All right. Well,
I mean-
I think this came out 2 weeks ago. Let me know if you've heard of this. HPV and cancer. Mexican scientists finds 100% cure
Yes, I heard
for the
this.
human papillomavirus infection and cervical cancer.
So you go first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that. They say didn't they say they're like starting human trials, or that they're still
They were on
still-
human trials.
They're on human trials,
did-
and that there's still like ways to go.
There's
before
still a ways to go.
bring it to market.
But so far they had 29 patients, and all 29 were cured.
That is
Yes.
I
fantastic.
think I remember seeing something about that.
I bet
that
you won't
why-
hear anything else about it. I bet you that gets shoved under the thing. But I think we're getting to a point where the medical association is going to have to start admitting that they do have cures.
And then they're going to start having to answer questions, and people are going to want cures because people are suffering and dying from these diseases.
Well, they want to put the AMA on a stick.
I know. Which, that makes me mad. The country's supposed to look out for you, yet, I can see it two ways. It's smart because, they're getting money, and money's good. You got to pay off that debt somehow. But, at the risk of American lives and at the risk of just lives in general, so many doctors, and I know I have a friend who at least used to firmly believe that all doctors, they just wanted your money. They didn't want to help you. They just wanted your money. And for a while, I didn't believe them because if I went to med school right now, if I started med school, which, I would want to go there to help people.
Well, see, the
So
problem.
are we saying that all doctors get corrupted in that? Are all doctors get corrupted? Is that what it is?
The problem isn't the doctors, it's the people above the doctors. The doctors themselves want to help you, but as far as they know, what they're doing is
helping
as
you.
much as they can do for you. It's not like whoever has the cure for, let's just say, cancer is going to let all the doctors in the world in on their little secret, They are about as ignorant, if, all of this is true, they're about as ignorant as you and me.
Here's another idea just to throw out there. Aside from money, why do we want to cure people? If you listen to what they're saying out there, if you listen to the Bill Gates Foundation, if you listen to some of the other people out there are too many people on this planet.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this stuff started as a eugenics movement back in the 20s. And you can see elements of it all throughout all of this, the World Health Organization and all of this and stuff like this.
That's a point that there are too many people, but
But that's a misnomer. That's not true.
I don't think
There
it's
There are not two. The world can handle twice as many
I know.
people on this planet.
And
If you follow this myth of that there are too many people in here, it's going to lead you to conclusions.
that people just need to die from diseases.
Yeah.
And going by that, they make those assumptions, say, well, there are too many people anyways, might as well have a big outbreak. Who are we to decide who lives and dies? It sounds like what they're saying is the American people in this country that can afford medical care are going to be the ones that survive stuff like this.
Well, not only that too, but going on this whole road here, when you think about it, diseases are just a way for natural selection.
Yep.
The people who have stronger immune systems, who are more immune against these diseases,
Will
go
survive.
on, survive, reproduce. The population grows stronger and stronger, which I can see, but at the same time, I don't want.
We don't want that.
People dying.
It's not something that we want, and it's not something that we want to allow to happen just out of just good morals. We don't want that. We don't wish that on humanity. But I mean, it seems like medical people in the government would like that to happen so that they can give out more vaccines. They can give out more medication. The whole thing on antibiotics is that viruses are getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and now there's new strains of antibiotic resistant. They had a case of it here in Galveston. There was a bacteria that was antibiotic resistant, and it killed a man. It was a flesh-eating bacteria.
What if that's the plan all along with they keep creating the
some
strain,
super flu to
keep
wipe out
creating the
humanity.
strains until they're strong enough, and then
You think
you
that
can't
the
fight them, and they
government's-
say, "Hey, we did all we could."
You think that the government's doing this?
I toss between, is the government? I mean, the government. Are they really that smart? I mean, are they really playing this 4D chess?
Them a little bit too much credit for what they are.
I mean,
Cut to 2 weeks when we're all dead.
I mean, that
They know too much. Take them out.
Exactly. I mean, they have us all guessing. But the idea is that when it comes to the anti-vaxxers, it's not, the argument is not the face value of the argument. Are you an anti-vaxxer or are you not? No, you are for having the right to tell the
decide.
government what to do.
That's
Because
what our
if you get
government's all
scared
about.
and you say, "Oh, I'm going to sign whatever legislation that forces everybody and their dog to have vaccinations and stuff like that,"
yeah.
then you get what you deserve when it comes back around. You got to reserve the right to push the government back.
Yep, and I think that's a whole thing that's kind of part of our democracy. We have that right because we live here, and a lot of other countries don't have that privilege. And I mean, we should take advantage of it. And if the government does something that we don't like, we should fight back on it. And I mean, we should at least fight back to the point where we have the right to choose. Even if it's unpopular, I still don't think that they should make it a law to get your child vaccinated because everybody has the right to choose. Going back to the antibiotic resistance, because that scares me so much. I have been through so many medical classes, and literally at the end of the day, they're just like, fun fact, by 2050, 50 million people are going to be dead due to antibiotic resistance. And
Well, I mean, when you think about it, that can also be linked back to our own doing.
it's
That's likely
of
because
course our
because
own
of
doing.
the-
It's our
Because of
own fault.
antibiotics
Because let's
getting
be honest
stronger
here. Let's be honest here. At this point, we are over.
We really are.
We are over antibiotics.
Back in, I think it was the 80s or 90s or something, or the 70s, not now. I remember my biology teacher last semester, he was telling me how when he worked as a teenager and in McDonald's, his manager was like, I think I'm gonna get the flu, I'm gonna go get an antibiotic shot. Just because. Just for the funsies, I'm gonna go get a shot just because I want to. And that is people like that who are ignorant and do not know the effects of getting antibiotics.
I mean, there are certain things that, yes, you
They
need
need
antibiotics. The
for.
stronger stuff, the stuff you can't really do anything about. But then you also have to remember, anytime you get sick, your immune system gets stronger because it's seen it before, it knows how to fight it off.
And I'm not saying that you need to get sick to the point where you're almost dying,
Death.
but getting sick is nothing to be ashamed of, and getting sick isn't anything.
The problem is people don't want
People
to
don't wanna be
have the
uncomfortable.
inconvenience, the uncomfortableness. Yes.
And I haven't taken, I just got sick last week, and same thing that Soleil had, but I know my brother had it too, and my dad I was like, oh, Dad, I'm sick, I think I need to go to the doctor. He's like, nope, getting sick's good for you. Just get over it. And he's always told me that. Every time I get sick, he's like, well,
What does your dad do?
my dad is a chemical engineer, but
Yeah, he knows what he's talking about.
Smartest man I know, so I always trust him. And I think he's right. He's like, getting sick's good for you. He's like, I mean, I don't know the credibility of this, but I mean, like, you see kids in India who have survived, and I mean, Lord knows what's in India and all their diseases. I do think getting sick is good for you in a sense, like getting the flu. I don't think I haven't gotten a flu shot, and even my dad's like, okay, we're gonna go get flu shots, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not getting it because if I get the flu, yeah, it's gonna suck, but at least I'll be stronger than you. Yeah. So it's like, I don't mind getting sick as long as I'm not like on my deathbed. Like
I said earlier, I have never gotten the flu shot. I mean, obviously, my mother has vaccinated me for like measles, polio, all the all the good stuff. Yeah, but I've been blessed with an amazingly good immune system, so I really haven't gotten sick all too often in my life.
When you do get sick,
Well, yeah.
When I do get sick, you might want to stay away from me, but that's a different story.
My dad used to say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
So anytime that I'm even
Clarkson
remotely
said that.
feeling kind of off, I'm like, oh, my body must be fighting something off. But I don't really think about it all too much because I know my immune system is growing stronger with each passing day.
Yeah.
Every time I'm fighting something off, it's learning it, it's getting stronger. I'm not going to get sick from it again.
Now, of course, I'm going to complain when I'm sick and
Oh, yes, of
throwing up,
course.
and I'm going to be like, oh, man,
That's
this
a given.
sucks. Why didn't I get the shot? But then in the end, I'm like, well, I mean, now I'm not going to get that one again.
So another question is, so this talk about anti-vaccinations, do you think this is a new topic?
I don't think
Relatively
it's
to how long vaccinations have been out,
I
been
don't
around.
think it's
Well,
new. I just think there's more access to people being able to talk more openly.
When when I was growing up and stuff like this, I remember hearing this same kind of conversation going on and stuff like this. Although I feel, and it just the way it seems nowadays, that the arguments, the rhetoric is getting stronger, and it's the same story. Get your kids vaccinated because you don't want them infecting the class. Well, we've already proven that it doesn't affect the class.
If anything, it would just affect the other people that.
Yeah,
always-
and the flu vaccine. If you miss a shot a year or something like that, it's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
In fact, it helps your immunities because
you might get sick, but you're not going to die.
I
You're
mean,
a little
the
bit
only-
stronger the next time around.
Yeah, I get
So
it.
what I'm saying is it's a false flag. Why are they throwing that up? Why are they throwing that up? Why are they throwing this bill out there? That bill right there bothers the heck out of me because it's just a way. It's scaring the public. It's pushing you back. It's calling you stupid if you don't get vaccinated. If you consider yourself an anti-vax, or if you have a question.
It's shaming the
I mean,
people.
if you have a question,
Yeah.
they don't even want to address that.
Believe
No,
me.
you just accept it. And so my question is, why? Why would they do that? Why? Is it money? Is it because of big pharma, or is it something
Not only
else?
that, but I don't think they want people to be afraid because
No, they want people to be afraid.
well, in the
wanna
sense
control
that
people.
the majority of people.
I think they just
Well-
want to control people, and you control people by fear, and you just get money off of that fear. So, I mean, it's like, yes,
But what about like companies like Britain or France or Canada, where most of their healthcare
Companies
is,
like Britain?
countries like Britain, you know what I mean, where most of their healthcare is socialized.
it's mandated. Yeah.
Well, also that they don't make as much of a profit because there aren't private companies.
They're not making much of a profit.
They're not.
All that money goes straight to the government.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah, it's
government.
You're not paying it there. You're paying it in your taxes. When you're paying 60, 70, 80% taxes, somebody's making bank.
Yeah, but that's not from vaccines specifically. That's just to fund the whole general
do they make
healthcare.
do they make a big deal over in Europe about vaccines?
Oh yeah, there's a huge anti-vaccine movement going on in France.
Yeah.
And is
Yeah,
that
it's-
because wait? So
It's going
Is
on
the
for the same
government-
reasons as it is in
is
the
the
U.S.
government pushing vaccines as hard as they are here?
Yes, as hard as they are here, so that's
So
promoting
the
them.
government. Why do you think that is?
That's what I'm asking.
Are you from
'cause-
France or?
No.
I lived in Belgium for a couple of
Oh,
years,
wow,
but
okay.
I moved away before
Oh.
before I could even
Before
learn the language,
started.
or
But,
before I even learned the language or anything.
Before I got an accent.
Do you think
Yes.
that it's
I could have such a cool accent.
I know.
Do you think that it's because, for the same reason as us, get money for the government? Because I mean,
Well,
the
I
government
don't
over there
think so,
needs-
because the government, it gets the money from taxes, and that taxes, that's for the
They
whole
get the money
medicals.
either
That's
way,
not. They get the
whether
money either
whether
way.
you
Exactly.
get the vaccine or not.
Yeah.
Because
So-
it's coming directly out of your taxes.
Okay, so
Yeah. So why would they?
Where's the push coming from? Where
Yeah.
where is it? And as you start asking that question, it starts getting you into some really bad places.
what do you think it is?
What do you think?
I
it
don't
is?
know.
I'm thinking
I mean,
it's the.
You know,
Worst
It's
case
the
scenario,
government
what do you
funded-
think it could be?
'Cause I'm thinking it's the government-funded hospitals trying to
It's
promote it.
secretly
What,
the zombie
what else
apocalypse.
could it be?
Yes.
yeah.
That's what they're preparing. Yeah, I know. You wish it was the zombie apocalypse, Gabe.
You know what's odd?
Dream Herald.
You know what's odd in all those zombie apocalypse films? It always generates from the CDC. You know, it's like it was some virus that got out of hand.
Moral of the story: don't trust the CDC.
I have taken so many medical classes ever since my freshman year, and I hate all of them because they all talk about how we're all gonna die of diseases.
Was it on the? Going to conspiracy land here? On the Georgia Guidestones, it says an acceptable population is 50,000
For the human race or
for the
just
human
the
race.
town?
For the human race. No, it's 500,000. Sorry.
500.
I know it was less than a million. That's what I thought. I was like,
That's
but I mean, acceptable.
Well, I mean, when you think
population
about it, how
for the
many
Earth.
other species out there have over 500 million?
Chickens?
Besides, like the little tiny.
Chickens?
swear.
There are more chickens than humans.
Yeah. There's like 30 billion of them.
There's gotta be like 10 million thousand roaches on
You know
this
how many
planet.
birds are out there?
The birds.
Just birds in
Did
general.
you know that the blue macaw is now extinct?
Yeah, I saw
What?
that.
Yeah, you know the real
Wait,
birds?
wait,
They're
what?
extinct now.
Nope.
What
Apparently
do you learn
Hold on.
from
I
that
gotta
movie?
confirm
Nobody.
this. I gotta confirm this myself. I can't. I refuse to believe that.
Yeah, I know.
Google it.
Oh shit! It is
The
extinct.
blue
Oh.
macaws didn't have vaccines.
So how did that happen?
Oh, you're right. It is.
I know I am.
Oh.
right.
Yeah, they're gone.
Anyways, back to what we
Anyways.
were talking about.
Back on topic.
Mr. Geniac, do you have any conspiracy theories or
No conspiracy
you know,
theories.
No conspiracy
No
theories.
conspiracy theories.
You're not gonna enlighten me in government tactics to.
Conspiracy facts, maybe.
Okay, then tell me.
No.
I want to know.
I'm just saying, ask questions, doubt everything, be aware.
The government would not like
Do
to
your
hear
own
that.
research.
You're,
Do not take anything anyone says
Okay,
at face
but
value.
how can you do your own research when the people mandating the internet is the government? So I mean, you know that they take off what they don't want you to know.
Just know that whatever articles that they take off, those are the ones you should have read.
exactly. But how can you get to that?
Become a hacker.
Seriously, are we really giving the government way too much credit?
We might be,
I think we
but-
are. I don't think they
Yeah.
regulate the internet
'Cause
to that
it's
degree.
either they are masterminds and like world powers get together. They're like, how can we screw over everybody in our country and
Illuminati
therefore the world?
confirmed.
Yes.
I don't know if any world government is capable of
Or if they're all-
organizing in such a way.
Or if they're all just chilling, like, oh, they think that we're gonna do all this. Well, I mean, they can get their hopes up.
We're not that smart.
We're not that smart.
It's just a chill party between like super rich people. They don't care about
You know
doing
it
all
is.
this.
Is there anything else on this topic that we needed to hold on? Let me.
Let me look. You look through
This
your
is
notes.
a very sad sheet. It was very nice and neat, and then it got crushed over it. Oh, there was one question. I know, like some of these, they never test for things. Whenever you're born, they just give you all these shots. They never test for allergies for any of this, because I know some of these are grown in egg proteins. They never. And, like, they have, like, wheat proteins in them sometimes, like, especially the flu shots. They never really test to see if you're allergic to eggs. I mean, I know that's not that common.
I think that's a very important fact. I mean, one of the topics I was trying to figure out, so first recognize the problem, what it is, what they're telling you and stuff like this. But if you were to say, take an anti-vaxxer position or something like that and say, okay, I'm not going to get my kids vaccinated or I'm not going to use these vaccinations, what is the solution? What do I do? So I asked to see the list, the ingredients that are in them. Unless I'm a chemist, how am I going to understand if this is going to have an adverse effect on my kid or not? And stuff. There have to have some rationale or some way to understand what's going in and what can I expect are the side effects and what, what is a reasonable risk, and how do I know the vaccine that you're giving my child will help?
Well, on allergies, when do those develop? Because you're not born with allergies. They have develop after you're born,
Okay,
shortly
well,
after.
Shortly after? How shortly after?
I'm not sure.
Well, then,
When did
But,
the peanut allergy happen?
I don't know, because
I don't know.
everybody I know.
Because when I was young, there was no such thing as a peanut
Exactly.
allergy. I was
So
like,
allergies.
But it seems I've heard
is
it's
the
more likely
weakness
that
as a human, right?
allergies are more common nowadays because everything's more sanitized. We spend more time indoors, and we're not exposed to as much.
That's something that I do not
So-
like, that everywhere has Germex and everybody sprays everything down with Lysol, because I
Too
mean
much
that
Yeah, and they're not
that
getting
point
exposed,
six-
and that goes to your
99
point of like not getting the
exactly.
antibiotics because
a little
you gotta
germs,
suck it up and
a
deal
little,
with
a
it.
little germs help you
It
out.
will-
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
Yeah, and like that 0.01 in the 99.9% of germs that doesn't get killed will grow stronger, and it will eventually bite you. Cause like we're spraying down everything with Lysol, and so many parents are so concerned. There's like, my kid's gonna die of some disease if we don't spray everything in the house with Lysol, and like three times a day.
The problem
And then their
is,
immune
the problem
system
with that
stays
is
weak.
that, one, whatever you are killing are the weaker of the bunch, and you're leaving the stronger to breed, to grow stronger and stronger and stronger.
The top 0.1%.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And then, two, even if you just, do it and they don't grow stronger, your body still isn't accustomed to
The
whatever it is that
germs.
you're trying to kill. The germs, exactly.
And-
so you get that in your body's not going to know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. And you're going to get sick. And, depending on what it is, quite possibly die.
I don't know. I don't think, and like I know hospitals are the worst place to be if you are sick, because they're so sanitized that it's just dangerous to be in the hospital. I can't remember
I
the
don't-
reasons exactly why, because I used to know all the reasons why hospitals were dangerous, but I mean,
I
since
don't
they
think,
sanitize
I don't think
it,
it's because of sanitization.
I
It was
don't
like-
remember what it was.
I think it's just there are people like if you don't want any germs in a hospital because people who are like weaker that are staying there, you don't want any.
Yeah.
You don't even want the chance
You also
of
don't
something
want
coming.
foreign germs inside your body. That's why they sterilize everything before cutting you open. So, I mean, obviously we need sanitation in certain aspects,
Yeah,
certain areas.
especially in hospitals. But
Yeah, especially in hospitals.
babies
but we
they like
don't-
leave the hospital soon after.
We don't need to be spraying down something every single time we touch it.
Yeah. And I remember reading a bunch of articles, like, because somebody in my class brought it up, and she was freaking out about getting STDs from the toilet seats in public bathrooms. And they're just like, oh my God, because I remember she said that she carried around Lysol with her everywhere and, like, would spray down things like that. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? One, the stuff that they make toilet seats out of cannot breed and carry germs. They were smart about that. But, like, it's people like that are going to kill us all.
Or just themselves.
Or just themselves, and therefore it's natural selection. But,
All comes down to natural selection, folks.
So in conclusion,
I mean,
if you want to strengthen your immune system, look at toilet seat.
what did I just say? They don't have any bacteria, Zach.
Okay.
Lick your phone screen.
There. Like a doorknob.
Ew.
It's good for your immune system, Jordan.
I mean, I'm not
Ew.
a...
Builds character.
It builds character.
So
And if you do lick a toilet seat, you're going to be okay.
Lesson of the day.
I think we've swung full circle on this. We went from anti-vaccines to licking doorknobs. It's like
That's
That seems about right for our group.
Yeah.
Sign off.
Anyways, well, that was a fun conversation for all of us. Say goodbye, guys. And we'll sign off.
Follow us on Twitter. Is that
Yeah.
Day of the Week 24?
Yeah.
And then our Instagram, which is at Day of the Week 24.7.
Yeah. I'm not very
And then-
consistent with that. And then email is the same as the Instagram, just at gmail.com. I don't check it. But if
Well, don't
somebody
tell 'em
tells
that.
me, if somebody tells me that they're sending me really cool ideas, then I'll check it. 'Cause,
Well,
I mean,
how are you going to know if they're
You know, Zach-
sending you really cool ideas? You're not checking it.
I don't know.
Probably
Just
check it,
email me.
Just check
You
it.
know, just try. See what happens. Good talk about something really cool.
And remember, fact check everything.
Yes.
Because when we get excited, we make shit up.
Yes, exactly. There we go.
Very true.
I think that was the perfect ending. So, goodbye. Have a nice night and a nice life.